There's been a lot of talk in the Sonic community regarding a fan game called Sonic Omens. The Sonic community creates a lot of fan games, so much so we have 2 annual events per year dedicated to celebrating them. So, what's got everyone talking about this one in particular? In short, controversy. There's reason to believe the developers, Ouroboros Studios, have been monetizing the game, with accusations they'd locked previous demo builds behind a Patreon paywall. In this video, I'm going to be addressing a few questions. 1. Is Sonic Omens being monetized? 2. Is there a problem with monetizing fan games? 3. Is monetizing a fan game any different from monetizing fan art or YouTube videos? And 4. Is it anyone else's business or concern? I will not be discussing the quality of the fan game. I'm not here to review Sonic Omens. I'm not even sure how well my PC would run it. I'm also generally in support of fan games. I submitted a demo of a Sonic the Hedgehog RPG to Sonic Amateur Games Expo last year. I got my start in high school by making Dragon Ball Z fan games in RPG Maker 2003, using ripped and edited sprites from the Legacy of Goku on Game Boy Advance. I learned a lot from making fan games and encouraged me to get my bachelor's with honours degree in games art and design. My career now as a senior instructional designer, the thing that pays my bills and feeds my kids, is heavily reliant upon that skill set. With that said, point 1. Is Sonic Omens being monetized? At first glance, the answer might appear to be no. Anyone can go ahead and download the latest demo for free. On the surface, that seemed to contradict claims of demos being locked behind a Patreon paywall. My next step was to find this Patreon page. I didn't want to rely on Twitter claims and secondhand screenshots because I think the internet's been shown how easy it is to doctor those more than enough times now. On their Patreon page, Ouroboros Studios advertise themselves as a startup focusing on 2 original properties, The Adventures of Tel the Bard and The Race of 9 Worlds, with seemingly no mention of Sonic. Fortunately, the Wayback Machine has an instance of this page dated 1st November 2020, and if we take a look at that, we suddenly get a very different picture. All of their posts and updates are about Sonic Omens, or as it was then titled Sonic 2020, and we can see what appears to be a demo release for one of the game's episodes, Shadow of Water, that's locked off for Patreon backers only. There's definitely been an attempt to clean up this page and distance the developer's Patreon from their work on Sonic Omens, perhaps as a reaction to the recent backlash and controversy. This is enough for me to conclude that the game had been monetized. There's sufficient evidence to agree that, at the time, access to development blogs and demos had been gated behind a paywall. Here and now, I reasonably believe at least some of the team's Patreon funding is still going towards the development of Sonic Omens. You might object. You might say the focus is now clearly on the developer's original properties. If we take a look at their Instagram page, we can see that half of the posts are about Sonic Omens, and their About Us still lists it as an active project alongside... Hang on, that Dragon's logo is familiar. Huh. Guess they're fans of that franchise too. At any rate, they're clearly pushing Sonic harder than anything else. Would people know or care about this developer without their fan game? Is Sonic the thing that's drawing everyone's eyes and attention? Even Sega themselves know Sonic is the only thing many Sega fans are here for. That's why it's Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection, Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing, and why he's front and center of the Tennis and iToy games. Sure, those games have representation from Space Channel 5, House of the Dead, Shenmue, Bonanza Bros, Golden Axe, Skies of Arcadia, Nights into Dreams, Rysar, Burning Rangers Shinobi, Super Monkey Ball, Samba de Amigo, Jet Set Radio, Alex Kidd, and a ton of other IPs Sega's sleeping on, but they know it's a case of no Sonic, no sales. So much so, they dropped all non-Sonic characters from the latest racing title. The other common objection is that a Patreon pledge isn't the same as purchasing a product. It's making a donation to a creator, so technically they were never selling access to the demo. Patreon's own wording contradicts this. They say a creator is someone who creates a membership page on Patreon to engage with patrons who have purchased memberships from Patreon to support the creators' creations. There are two very important distinctions here. Patrons are purchasing a membership, not making a donation. They are supporting the creators' creations, not the creator themselves. So yes, these demos were being sold. The campaign is very clearly in violation of Patreon's terms of service. Under restrictions we see we don't allow creations or benefits that use others' intellectual property unless you have written permission to use it, or your use is protected by fair use. We'll come back to that fair use point in just a bit, don't worry. This is reinforced under your creations, which reads, you may not post creations that infringe others' intellectual property or proprietary rights. But hey, we've kind of jumped ahead into the second question. Is there a problem with monetizing fan games? It might seem like I shouldn't have a problem with this. By my own admission, I've made fan games. I would still love to remake Sonic R someday. I advocate that artists should be paid. I enjoy playing fan games. So who is this hurting? Are Ouroboros not deserving of compensation for their time, skill, and effort? And why should Sega care? In short, any fan game is a violation of various laws, especially copyright and trademark law, but because there's no money involved and the reputational damage to the brand has never been severe enough to quantify a significant loss, Sega chose to encourage fan content. Famously, Sega even hired Christian Whitehead, resulting in the mobile ports and Sonic Mania. Monetizing Sonic Omens potentially changes that and puts all of us at risk. Let's expand on those points. I've based my research on US copyright law because Patreon's terms state any disputes must be resolved in San Francisco under California law, and the monetization took place on Patreon. Before I continue, I am not a lawyer, this is not legal advice, and I'm British, so this is my interpretation of a 458-page document detailing a foreign country's law as it's written. Video games are protected under Section 102, which lists motion pictures and other audiovisual works. Audiovisual works having been described in Section 101, definitions, as works that consist of a series of related images which are intrinsically intended to be shown by the use of machines or devices such as projectors, viewers, or electronic equipment, together with accompanying sounds, if any, regardless of the nature of the material objects, such as films or tapes, in which the works are embodied. Section 106, Exclusive Rights in Copyrighted Works, states things that only the copyright holder can do with their creation, including the right to reproduce it and make derivative works from it, Bullets 1 and 2. Note that we'll be coming back for Bullet 4 later on. A lot of people focus on page 19, Section 107, Limitations on Exclusive Rights, Fair Use. This contains various exceptions to copyright law. Essentially, you can use a copyrighted work for the purposes of criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, or research. When considering if something falls under fair use, we need to look at 4 criteria, and I'll comment on these as we go. 1. The purpose and character of the use, including whether such use is of a commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes. The commercial nature is the bit that stands out for me when discussing Sonic Omens. Money is involved, the demo was sold. I feel confident in making that argument on a legal basis, given my earlier points around Patreon's terms and the paywalled access to the demo. 2. The nature of the copyrighted work. Sonic the Hedgehog is a multimedia franchise. It's a commercial product. It exists to make money. It's not educational. While it has environmental themes, it's not intended as activism, it's purely entertainment. 3. The amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole. Looking at Sonic Omens, while some original 3D models, audio, and other assets do exist, it appears that many of them are directly taken from, or edited from Sega's official assets. Even if they were all original, they are based on character designs which Sega own. 4. The effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. This is where things get murky and probably why Sega leaves most fangame developers alone. It costs Sega money to send you a cease and desist. It costs them even more to take you to court. For it to be worth their time, there have to be substantial damages, typically either monetary or reputational. If you're making a Sonic video game, that franchise's bread and butter, and it's either so bad or so good that it's getting a lot of attention, you're potentially causing reputational damage to the Sonic brand, by either making Sonic look bad with a terrible game, or making Sega look bad with a great game by seemingly doing it better than they can. If you're monetizing it, it gets even worse as you're directly competing with Sega as an unlicensed bootleg in the eyes of the law. It also leads us directly into my third point. Is monetizing a fan game any different from monetizing fan art or YouTube videos? Whether a YouTube video is protected by fair use or not depends on the nature of that video. A review is usually fine because the purpose is to provide critique, and the amount of the copyrighted work shown is typically just enough to evidence the reviewer's points, and is only a fraction of the full game. Of course, it could fall foul of point 4, impact on the value of or market for the product, but that opens a whole can of worms regarding free press, censorship, and other complex topics which would divert us from the core discussion. A Let's Play, on the other hand, shows the full game. You could argue you're adding commentary or critique in real time, but I don't think that's enough to combat the other considerations. In fact, remember how I said we'd come back to section 106, bullet 4? That states the copyright holder has the exclusive rights to publicly perform an audio-visual work. What is a Let's Play if not a performance of a video game? It raises a lot of questions for the modern age. Are all video game streamers breaking the law? Probably. We're coming away from the main point again though, so... Fan art is probably the closest to fan games in this regard. Drawing fan art to show your love for a property or practice your skills? In most cases, no harm, no foul, unless it's something that could cause reputational damage to the brand, such as NSFW content. Slapping that fan art on a print or t-shirt and selling it is a different story. You know those licensing magazines we keep inferring leaks from? That's Sega going out to people saying, hey, let's make a deal where you'll produce toys, t-shirts, whatever, based on our property. You'll pay us a license fee, we'll review and approve it before it goes to market, and we'll agree a revenue share. By not doing that, and putting your stuff on TeePublic or Redbubble, you're an unlicensed bootleg. You can catch the attention of not only Sega's lawyers, but also of the companies that are going through the proper channels, and are paying the licensing fees and splitting their revenue. So how come a lot of stuff is still up there? Well, there are a lot of reasons. One is sheer volume. It's like a hydra. Cut off one head to replace it. You might just be flying under Sega's radar. They might not know about you. The other is return on investment. Let's say you've made $100 selling fan art. A cease and desist can cost between $750 and $1,200. Sega would be losing at least $650. Taking you to court would cost several times more, so a lot of the time, companies just don't bother with small fry. I appreciate there's also a morality versus legality argument here too. Your design might be offering something Sega's products don't, fans are still happy to receive it, it can still be high quality, it's how a lot of artists make their start. I'm not going to get into that debate today, I'll merely acknowledge there's a difference between right and wrong versus legal and illegal. Okay, so a fan artist, or in this case, fan game developer, decides they're willing to run that risk. It's on them if they get sued, right? Question 4 of 4. Is it anyone else's business or concern? I brought it round to a segue, baby. Yes, it's the entire community's business and concern. We have an incredibly good thing going with Sega. I think I've made it clear that Sega aren't ignorant of their fan community. They allow us to do our thing entirely at their mercy. Heck, they even encourage us. That's incredibly rare. They're the polar opposite of Nintendo in that regard, but that can change in an instant. Monetizing Sonic Omens is very much a case of poking the bear. It's disrespectfully pushing boundaries. If Sega respond, they might not stop at just taking Sonic Omens down. No, they could change their entire policy over this. No more Sonic Fan Games HQ, no more Sage, no more Sonic hacking contest, at least not above ground, and it could happen overnight, because one developer got greedy. The Ouroboros is a serpent that eats its own tail. That's scarily fitting for describing the precarious situation Sonic Omens Patreon places our entire fan community in. I get that games aren't free to make, but fan projects need to be treated as a hobby you do in your spare time, not a source of income. And hey, if you do want to make this the way you pay your bills, pitch to Sega, apply for jobs with them. They're receptive to fans becoming part of the official teams, again as evidenced by Sonic Mania's very existence.